You've been told that being a Section 8 landlord means bad tenants, trashed houses, and below market rent, but that's just not true. In fact, I stopped renting to regular market tenants and even Airbnb entirely, and now I make about $600 to even $1,000 a month cash flow per house with boring Section 8 rentals, boring months, and without ever chasing anybody down for rent. So in this video, I'm gonna walk you through the plain math on two houses, start to finish, at two completely different price points. And then I'm going to show you the number that I had totally backwards for years and how reshifting my mindset was a game changer. And if we haven't met, I'm Nana, a former real estate attorney and 20 plus Airbnb superhost that eventually burnt out, pivoted, and built a $1 million Section 8 rental portfolio in just 2 years. All while I was mostly home having my babies, two of them back to back, and now I self-manage it all on autopilot. Before we get too deep into the numbers, I actually built a free Section 8 payment and retirement calculator. So you can use this to find out how much Section 8 will pay you. You plug in your city and it shows you what they'll actually pay for a house in your zip code. And then it'll tell you how many properties it would actually take in order to replace your current income or whatever your goal retirement income is. And it's totally free. You can get that in the description box below. Grab it now so that way you can follow along with me as we go through these numbers. So the truth of the matter is the world is different now. The rental market is a whole different beast than it was just a few years ago. The cost of everything is different. Your insurance renewal is now like $1 million. It came in, you laughed, you cried. And yet most landlords are still underwriting a house the exact same way they did back in 2016, 2019. Back when you could just buy a house for maybe $100,000 in the good old days at 3% interest rate, the really good old days, and a market tenant would pay you a decent amount of rent, and that spread took care of everything, right? It covered the mortgage, the taxes, insurance, and you still had a little left over. But those days are kind of gone because rates are banana pants, prices are cuckoo machu. And that comfortable spread that you had, that cash flow is getting squeezed right out of the middle. Even other landlords that I know, they're looking at these deals and they're like, yo, this is only going to cash flow like $50, $100. Is this even worth it? In the meantime, while all of that was happening to the private market, the Section 8 market have quietly kept raising what they'll actually pay landlords, because their numbers come from a formula. So now let's get down to business and get into these numbers. I'm gonna use round numbers so you can follow along. The first type of house we're gonna look at is a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath. Nothing too crazy, nothing fancy. And let's say your purchase price is $150,000. 20% down is gonna be $30,000 plus about 10 grand for your closing costs and to just get it ready to actually rent. So you're all in for about $40K out of pocket. And by the way, if you want to know how you can actually buy a house without having to put that much down or even having to use the bank, I have a resource on how to buy houses without the bank in the description box below, so you can check that out as well. But with these numbers, that leaves about $120,000 of mortgage. And at 7% on a 30-year note, principal and interest is about $798 a month. Then you add your taxes at $200, maybe insurance at $100, and you've got a full monthly payment of around $1,098. And then the payment standard on a 3-bedroom in that zip code is, say, $1,850. That's around what Section 8 will pay you every month. And these numbers are published and you can pull up yours easily using that free payment estimator. So in our example, you've got $1,850 coming in, $1,098 going out to the bank, the county, and the insurance company. And that leaves $752 a month for maintenance and CapEx. So that puts you at about $602 cash flow a month. So let's just call it $600 a month in positive cash flow, which to me is pretty good. Now let's go on to house number 2. And this is the one that surprises a lot of people. So for me and many of the investors I know, most of the houses I buy are actually not around $150,000 because of the market that I primarily invest in. A lot of them are closer to 300 grand, around there. So let's run that one too, because the answer is not what a lot of people would expect. So let's say for a 4-bedroom house in a nice area with nice schools, the kind of place that a family really wants to stay in, with our purchase price of 300,000, 20% down is going to be 60K, plus about 50 for closing costs and getting it ready to actually rent. So I'm all in for about 75K. And again, I often use creative financing, so I don't have to get a traditional loan or put that much down. And you can see how I do that in the link below. But that is going to leave around $240,000 as your mortgage. So with the same 7%, your principal and interest is going to be, let's say, $1,597. Taxes are going to be around $400, insurance around $150. So your full monthly payment is $2,147 a month. And the payment standards, what Section 8 will pay you in that zip code, is $3,000. Let's say you put aside $250, since this is a larger house, for your maintenance every month. So when you do the numbers, that's going to get you to around $603 cash flow every single month. And there it is, right? I doubled the purchase price. I put in nearly twice as much money, and the monthly cash flow is basically identical. $600 either way. So if the cash flow is the only thing you're looking at, you definitely say and agree that the cheap house wins, obviously, because it took way less money to actually get into the property. And for years, that's exactly what I would have said too. But I want you to hold that thought, because we're coming back to it, and I'll show you why the answer can really flip and completely flip for me. The reason why I wanted to show you the per house cash flow amount is because a lot of people are like, okay, girl, $600 is not gonna retire me. But I wanna show you the way the multiplication works, right? 5 boring houses, for example, and you're at $3,000 a month with just $600 cash flow. And that's real monthly passive income without having to grind all day for it once you have it set up correctly. Now let's talk about the number that I had backwards, because if you learn nothing else from this video, I want you to learn this. That $600 is what the house gives me while someone is living there every single month. But there are 2 other things happening at the same time that people don't talk about enough. The first one is that your mortgage is getting smaller. So in year 1 on that first house, about $1,200 of that money over the course of a year went to principal instead of interest. I know it's not as much as you'd like, but that's $100 a month of your net worth and your rental portfolio going up, and it's being funded by somebody else's rent check. On the $300,000 month, it's about $2,400 in 1 year. So about $200 every single month going to your principal. And that number gets bigger every single year, which means the day your property is paid off, the whole picture changes because your payment to the bank is gone. So house 1 goes from $602 a month to about $1,400 a month in cash flow. The second house goes from that $600 payment to about $2,200 a month in cash flow. So remember when I said the cheap house obviously wins for a lot of people, but I want you to hold that thought. Now I want you to look at that again, because that identical cash flow in the beginning with the bigger house, it's now paying me an additional $800 a month in cash flow once your tenant has helped you now pay off this property. And you didn't have to put another dollar in to make that part happen. The second thing and the second number is going to be appreciation. And this is where it gets a little crazy, but in a good way. First, nobody can promise you what a house will be worth. So let me use a boring, conservative 3% a year increase in equity, which is roughly what the housing market has done over the long haul in the last few decades. So at 3% increase a year, house number 1 gains about $4,500 in equity, and house number 2 gains about $9,000 in equity in year 1. So already in 12 months, you've increased the appreciation of that property. Now, when you run that out 20 years into the future, which may sound like a long time, but the time is going to pass anyways. For example, it feels like I graduated law school yesterday, but it was actually a whole almost 15 years ago. So there's that. So when you go out that 20 years, house number 1 is worth about $271,000 and you owe, say, $69K on it still. That's roughly $200,000 in equity from the $40K you initially put into it. House number 2 is worth about $540,000, and let's say you owe about $137 still on it. So that's $400,000 in equity from just putting down $75K. Plus, you've been getting cash flow the whole time, which at $600 a month is about $144,000 per house over that stretch. Mind you, this is without you ever having raised rents, but if you do that over time, your cash flow will increase as well. Now, just imagine if we continue to have some of these crazy high percent increases in terms of housing that we've had the last few years. Now, we don't know if that will happen, but either way, we rich, bitch. And I want you to notice that nothing clever happened here, right? You didn't have to go out and find some special crazy unicorn deep discounted deal, which is nice if you can find it. But all you really needed was some tenants to stay in a house that you were getting guaranteed rent on over time consecutively and to avoid as much vacancy as possible. And that's the exact thing that the Section 8 program is built to produce for you as a landlord. So here's what I had backwards, and you might too. I used to think that my job was to only find a house that cash flowed a lot right now, which of course is a big part of what you want to do. You don't want to be in the red as a landlord. But what I actually want is also a house that people want to stay in long term, consistently over time, and to have those rents help me pay that mortgage off. Because the paid off version is the completely different beast when it comes to cash flow. An investor I know, his Section 8 tenant stayed so long that Section 8 rent totally, literally paid off the mortgage. Not helped with it, but paid it off. And that house now can print money for him. So if you get anything from this video, let it be this. The $600 a month is the smallest and least impressive thing either of those houses we compared does. Underneath it, someone who has every reason to stay is quietly helping you to build your wealth and buy you a paid off asset that appreciates the entire time in a market where the rent is set by published standard instead of just by hope. And it is boring, it's slow, and it's the reason I get to build more of a soft life real estate strategy versus the crazy hustle all day one that I used to have. So drop a comment and let me know what market you're looking in, and then make sure you get the free Section 8 payment estimator in the description. And now that you've watched this video, you may be wondering, how do I make sure I have the right system to make Section 8 work successfully? Go ahead and watch this video here because I break it all down step by step. See you in the next one. Bye.